Coming up, the sports are draft preview in 3, 2.
Coming up on the 2020 NFL Draft Preview, we're going to preview the top 10 picks in this year's NFL Draft. But also, how will Teddy Bridgewater's free agency decision impact the draft? Stay tuned. Our in-depth look at the top 10 picks in this year's NFL Draft is coming up next. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Tyler O'Connell. Today we're doing a draft preview of the top 10 picks in the upcoming 2020 NFL Draft. We're going to discuss team needs and maybe even throw out a few possible names that could be wearing your team's colors next season. Also, we're going to preview Teddy Bridgewater's impact on the upcoming draft and how his decision will impact the team's picking in the top 10. Bridgewater is truly the X factor in the upcoming 2020 draft. New Orleans Saints free agent quarterback Teddy Bridgewater will be the key to how the top of this draft shakes out. Miami, Cincinnati, Denver, and Tampa are all teams picking in the top 10 who should be in the quarterback market. Obviously, if any of these teams is able to land Bridgewater, that will change their draft strategy and allow them to use their first-round pick to strengthen another area in need. Bridgewater has already turned down Miami in the past. But now with their change in coaching staff and a strong draft capital, maybe he'll give the Dolphins a second look. Cincinnati is probably out on Teddy simply because nobody really wants to join that shit show. Tampa is a real possibility, but Arians usually prefers big arm quarterbacks, and that's not really Teddy's game. Denver looks to be the most ideal landing spot for Bridgewater in my mind, but the team will also need to see what it has in rookie signal caller Drew Lock before paying an outside free agent. Now, on to the top 10. With the first pick in the 2020 draft, the Cincinnati Bengals are looking at quarterback, offensive line, and linebacker. Familiar from last year. The obvious choice for the Bengals in this upcoming draft is quarterback. The team effectively made this decision when they decided to bench longtime starter Andy Dalton the week before the trade deadline. Inexplicably, the team opted not to find a trade partner before the deadline. But it is the Bengals, so nobody should be surprised. They're the gold standard of ineptitude. Look for them to select another promising young signal caller, and then leave him running for his life and probably ruining his career too. The Washington Redskins are currently slotted for the second pick in the 2020 draft. Offensive line, wide receiver, and running back are all positions in need. Washington selected its future signal caller last year in the first round of the 2018 draft. Fortunately, they're in prime position to select a left tackle to replace disgruntled Trent Williams. Or do they pull the wild card and select Chase Young? If it's me, I take Young. I'd always jump at the chance to land a future All-Pro. And aside from quarterback, pass rusher is the most important position in today's game. The Bosa brothers have been standouts during their limited time in the league. Let's see if Young can make it a hat trick for the Ohio State pass rusher. The New York Giants hold the third selection in the 2020 draft. They're looking at pass rusher or wide receiver. They made what looks like the smart choice in selecting their future signal caller last year. They also added to the interior of their defensive line. I expect them to help one of those two picks in the first round this year. Jones already has Barkley and Ingram to help take pressure off, but adding another pass catcher to the perimeter would probably be the thing to push this offense over the top. Or perhaps they choose to help out the defense that could use an upgrade at almost every level. With the fourth pick in the 2020 draft, the New York Jets are looking at offensive line, wide receiver, and pass rusher. A team like the Jets appears to be closer to success than their record indicates if we're going to just look at paper. However, with Sam Darnold missing a couple weeks with illness that led to ghost sightings in his first game back, New York struggled to get anything going. Around the trade deadline, there were talks of Robbie Anderson getting moved, with multiple teams being reported as interested. Look for New York to add another dynamic young pass catcher at the top of the draft. If you're curious about potential names, just watch Alabama. With the fifth pick in the 2020 draft, the Miami Dolphins are looking at quarterback, or probably a quarterback. But seriously though, when was the last time the Miami Dolphins had a quality starter at quarterback? I think this could possibly be the landing spot for Bridgewater, though, whose free agency selection will give us a much clearer vision of draft strategy. But Teddy already turned down South Beach once, and don't be surprised if you do it again. If Miami lands a quarterback in free agency, then expect this pick to be an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. Miami has done a great job of acquiring draft capital to build a team around whomever they select to lead their franchise. That's 5 picks down and 5 picks to go. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll finish rounding out the top 10.
preview in the black. Coming back in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. We have just completed previewing the top 5 picks in the 2020 draft. Let's just get back into it, coming in at pick number 6. The Atlanta Falcons. What the fuck is wrong? Like, seriously though, I don't understand how Atlanta's doing this bad. I'm not really sure even how to help them. They've invested in almost every position over the past few years. The team in and of itself has a playmaker at almost every level. They can really go any direction they want, but probably leaning toward corner. I would assume this pick is going to probably be a corner, rusher, or offensive line. These are all premium positions with some top-level talent available in this year's class. If there's another team wanting to move up, this may be the spot to trade into. The Denver Broncos hold the 7th selection in the 2020 draft. Right now, we're looking at possibly quarterback, left tackle, or wide receiver. The Denver defense is still pretty stacked, although one could argue the linebacking unit could use some help, although I wouldn't list it as a major area need. However, this team needs a quarterback and a left tackle who can do their job without getting flagged. The Flacco and Bowles experiment has already gone. Many drives were killed by both of those guys' inability to do their jobs. Also a landing spot for Bridgewater. Best case, Denver is able to land Bridgewater and then add a franchise left tackle to keep him clean and healthy. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are currently slotted for the 8th pick in the 2020 draft. Quarterback, pass rusher, and running back are all possible selections here. This is one of the best places I feel like Bridgewater will end up. The team is already built to win aside from a few minor fixes that can be helped with the right free agency class and the right draft. The major kink for me is Arians typically goes for big arm guys, and that's not really Teddy's game. If they don't land a starter at quarterback in free agency, expect this to be a quarterback. Or will Arians roll the dice and try to land a guy who fits his profile like Jacob Eason maybe later in the 2nd round? With the 9th pick in the 2020 draft, the all-too-familiar Cleveland Browns. We're looking at cornerback, safety, or offensive line. The Browns are another team that looks to be grossly underperforming. While many may point to personalities as their biggest significant obstacle, I would argue Baker Mayfield getting eaten alive is another, maybe more fixable issue. Baker ranks near the bottom in completion percentage against the blitz on 3rd downs and almost every other major category. But if you're keeping him upright, I think his confidence will return, as will the winning ways. Help in the secondary is also possible, especially if LSU safety Grant Delpit is still available. Rounding out the top 10, we have the Arizona Cardinals, who are looking at offensive line, tight end, or cornerback. Arizona looks like a team that's not far away from having some real success in the league. Their major focus this offseason should be acquiring help on the offensive line to protect their investment at quarterback. Tight end is also a position of need and has been for quite some time. The defense already boasts Patrick Peterson and Budda Baker, but still feels like it's lacking something. Arizona could look to add another playmaker to the secondary, which should allow the defensive front to get to the quarterback more often. Arizona is one of the teams that could apply the best player available strategy in this year's upcoming draft. Thank you everyone for tuning in. That's a wrap for this episode of the 2020 NFL Draft Preview. I'm Tyler O'Connell. See you next time.